more than 3.5 hours of testimony at this point. Do you think it's unfolding as expected? I mean, is there anything that stood out as unusual or possibly unexpected today?
So such fiery discussions as we would have expected. We knew that the Republican contingent was going to focus on Herr's report and the conclusion that there were willfully retained documents and why there was a decision not to prosecute. So that was the focus of the Republicans, and the focus of the Democrats to undercut that, say that he exonerated Joe Biden. So I think it played out exactly as expected from the two sides. But I will say, Herr very, very much stuck to his report. He really stopped any inquiry that asked him to draw conclusions that were outside of his investigation and what he had actually memorialized in that report relating to his investigations. So I think it played out largely as expected. We did hear a lot of differentiation between Donald Trump and Joe Biden with respect to classified documents. That was another area we expected to hear about. We also heard about Joe Biden and his age and mental abilities, mental acuity, because that was also referenced in the report. So we knew those were going to be pressure points that both sides were going to dig into.
Right. And a lot of the Democrats bringing up fumbles or things that the former president had said as well, to kind of try to compare the two of them. Now, we know, Misty, this may not have been expected. Herr resigned from the DOJ yesterday in order to speak today, in order to testify as a private citizen. What's the significance of that?
So that was a huge thing, because it was just yesterday that he was released from the DOJ. And look, a special counsel is a temporary placement. So in other situations where special counsels have stepped in, their tie to the DOJ is severed. Now, what does that mean? Well, there's certain ethical concerns that and ethical obligations that tie to a DOJ employee, that tie to a government employee. And there's also that the DOJ has to approve any testimony. So testifying as a employee of the DOJ is different than being a private citizen. That being said, the distinction matters much less in this particular situation, because Herr is testifying about his time as a special counsel, about his time when he was under the umbrella of the DOJ. Therefore, he is still obligated to abide by any and all DOJ guidelines. He can't go beyond whatever ethical considerations there are for a DOJ employee. So it's a little bit more form over substance, because at the end of the day, everything relating to his testimony was during his time with the DOJ.
Oh, right. And something that, you said already stuck out to you was the fact that that Herr has really stuck to his conclusions, which were laid out in that report. He's already said he would not have pursued charges, even if the Justice Department had allowed him to indict a sitting president. So really, is all of this moot kind of today?
So here's what it really matters for. First of all, we know that there's a political implication, right? But putting that aside, to talk about the legal implication, Herr has already made the determination not to prosecute. So that's not going to be, it's not going to go the other way at this point. That's what a special prosecutor comes in, they do the investigation and make that determination. What, if anything, from this testimony or from the investigative materials will be implicated as far as an impeachment inquiry, which we know Republicans are pursuing? Is there anything that overlaps on that front relating to those documents that were retained? I would say that's probably an avenue that Republicans will look into. Whether or not that has any merit, who knows? But at this point, the inquiry as far as whether or not there will be charges is largely concluded. That being said, to your point, Nicole, Herr really stuck to his grounds, because we know that both sides tried to kind of overcharacterize his conclusions in the report. One side saying, you exonerated him. The other side saying, you found him to be unable to, mentally unable. Maybe he even needs a guardian. So Herr really went down the middle, and he said, look, I'm a prosecutor. I investigate, and then I also analyze how this would play out in front of a jury, what conclusions a jury could draw, and make a determination based on what those conclusions could be. And I came out on the side of not prosecuting. That doesn't mean there was no wrongdoing, but it was not enough to move forward under prosecutorial discretion.
You know, and Misty, my last question for you. Obviously, this matters. Obviously, the results of that report matter. But I think for the average American who is watching this, who sees this, what should be the conclusion? I mean, is this essentially all about politics? Is this all about political posturing at this point?
I mean, listening today, it was very, very political. That's what we heard. We heard a lot of it as we go up to the race. However, I believe in the legal system, and I think that transparency is very key, and that's why we have these types of proceedings. We get the report, but then we hear from that individual who actually conducted the investigation, so the American people can draw their own conclusions.
Absolutely, yeah. Transparency is so key. Legal analyst Misty Marris, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.